Dasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Dana Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manupistam Stapadam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upakaramayam Dadati Swapadantikam Namam Vishnupada Krishabhista Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Govani Pachayane Nivishesha Shunyavari Pasatari Satarine Vanchakopa Chubasha Kripa Sindvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pavanityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So before we begin with our topic, I'd just like to mention a few little organizational things. So first of all, let me introduce you all to my technical assistant, Eldar Prabhu from Ukraine. He is sending you, or maybe he has sent you already, a link to download the materials, right? You have that? Because the materials, they're good key points to keep your attention, and I'm pretty much following those points. And of course, it's helpful if additionally you take a few notes also, because our memory, usually we don't know much. We don't remember much a few days afterwards. And also the questions, I mean, those who don't know me yet, usually the way I work is that first I like to present quite a few things. And then usually in the middle of the seminar, I ask for questions. And then one more time at the end. And if we run out of time, I usually am happy to even stay a little longer, just in case somebody wants to personally connect or something, or ask something which we didn't get time for. So the questions, usually, please send them all to Eldar Prabhu, and he will sift them a little bit. And if your question was not presented, then you can always stay to the end. You know, like in actual seminars also, often people, they speak to the speaker afterwards, they hang around, you know, and have some exchange. So I'm just to make this experience a little more personal, I also like to work like that I don't just log out as soon as the seminar's over or something. But if somebody wants to share something or ask something, whatever, then we can do this a little later then. So, and yes, let me have a look. Yeah, let me give a little overview. So this seminar has 4 sessions: today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and next week, Saturday. So it is a little shorter than all other topics I'm presenting. So in these 4 sessions, we should get through it. And as always, all my topics, I like to very systematically present and establish things. So naturally, you will get the most out of it if you really come to all the sessions. Because every session is building up on the previous one, you know. And if you're missing one, then you may not get the full transformational experience as if you join every session like that. Yes, and also just to inform those who maybe don't know, I have put this topic also in book form. The False Ego, Our Constant Companion and Troublemaker. And of course in the book form, I can present more than I usually can in the seminar, because seminar I'm always under time limit, you know, but with a book I can, you know, spend more, get more into the details. So if you're interested in getting the book, please, you can send me a personal email, Elder Prabhu, you can put my email in the chat box there. Very simple, devaki@pamo.net. So, and then you can let me know where you're from, and maybe I can guide you where you can get the book, or sometimes I also send them out, especially if you order a few for your friends or something. And yeah, so if you're interested in the book, and it is also, the soft copy you can get from Amazon also. But many people, they do like to have a proper book in their hand, you know. So, yes. Okay, so the session today is more like the introductory session, which builds the foundation to all the upcoming sessions. So today we just want to try and understand a little more deeply what this false ego is. Because false ego is just so subtle that we can easily miss it. And actually, I have to share, frankly, you know, putting the seminar together and giving it for quite a few years now, and also undergoing the whole work of putting it in book form, it actually has helped me so much to discover how my own false ego is always affecting me in subtle ways, pushing me to say things and do things which I shouldn't say and shouldn't do. I mean, my God, it is a lifetime project, really, to dissolve this false ego. And we can almost say, you know, the more we become mature in Krishna consciousness, the more we realize how the false ego is affecting us. So, you know, I simply have the hope and aspiration that it will also help you to somehow be more perceptive and conscious, you know, because Prabhupada was always saying to become Krishna conscious, we actually have to become conscious first. And so often we are just so unconscious. And false ego, yes, it's one of my favorite topics, because I started realizing then that within Krishna consciousness, one can very easily miss the whole point of it, the target, completely. And unknowingly, we can do the opposite of what we really should be doing. Instead of dissolving and subduing the false ego, we can increase it and feed it and, you know, massage it. And oh my God, you know. So Krishna consciousness offers a lot of opportunity for this. We will discover this in the next few days. So that's why I find this such a crucial topic to talk about, because, yeah, we can completely miss the point, and we can, you know, think that we are doing the right thing. We're practicing Krishna consciousness, but in the name of Krishna consciousness, we can simply feed and extend our egos, you know, and we may not even realize. So it's a very important topic. Okay, so everybody has the materials? Yes, okay. By the way, I have also a few people here sitting in my room. I'm in Simhachalam in Germany, and a few devotees here also have some interest. So I have a little bit of live audience here in front of me. But yeah, Zoom programs, you kind of really concentrating on your Zoom audience and on the computer and so on, you know. Okay, so yeah, let us first of all understand false ego is the most subtle part of the subtle body. And we have been carrying this with us for so many lifetimes. Right? We all know the soul is covered by the gross body of earth, water, fire, air, ether. And then there is the subtle body of mind, intelligence, false ego. Here we have it. And subtle body, the elements of the subtle body, mind, intelligence, false ego, they affect each other backwards and forwards. It's actually hard to really separate them, in the same way as it is hard to separate the elements of the gross body, right? Earth, water, fire, air, ether. How will you separate them in the body? Pretty difficult. So in a similar way, we can say, the mind affects the intelligence affects the false ego, and backwards, the false ego also affects the intelligence very strongly. We will all discover this. And then again, the intelligence also affects the mind also very strongly. So it goes back and forwards, back and forwards. But we can say, the false ego is definitely the most subtle part of the subtle body. And that's the thing, because it is so subtle, we don't even realize, and we identify so strongly with it. And it often goes unnoticed and undiscovered. And yeah, it is interesting to observe that actually false ego already at very young age, it starts acting and affecting us, right? Very, very young age. So already as a small child, ego already sets in. I remember this funny little incident where I was visiting a family, and they had a little girl. She was a little bit more than 1 year. She could not talk. She could not talk. She could walk, but she couldn't talk. So, and while I was sitting in the lounge room talking to the parents, that girl was bringing all her toys into the lounge room from her playroom there, bringing one toy after the other. So I didn't really think much of it. I thought, all right, she's bringing the toys, And then the mother said, she is showing off because you are there. She wants to show off her toys. And I was thinking, my God, this already starts at such a young age, that the toys are the first possessions of the child, my toys, and because my toys are so special, I'm so special, or I'm so special because I have these fantastic toys. I mean, my God, at 1 year of age, this already starts that kids want to show off with their toys, And yeah, the toys often become also object of fighting. My toy, no, my toy, and so there we got it already. At 1 year of age, the whole thing starts with the ego, So, and then as the living entity, as the human being grows up, false ego becomes more and more prominent. Basically, we can say false ego means we think ourselves to be something which we are not, right? So we accept all these temporary designations. I am a girl, I'm a boy. That's how it starts. I'm a girl, I'm a boy. Then I'm a pupil, I'm a good pupil, I'm a bad pupil. So then I become a student, I'm a medical student, I'm this, I'm that. So as we grow older, the layers of designations, of upadhis, becomes thicker and thicker, right? Because then we become a professional, yes, I'm a doctor, I'm a teacher, I'm a professor, and I'm father, I'm husband, I'm mother, I'm wife. Oh my God, so many designations we accept. And the problem is we are identifying with them. We think this is me, even though they are only roles we are playing. That's the point, we are playing different roles. Each and every one of us here, we all have a different role. So, all right, at home we are mother or wife, and father, husband, but then at work we may be something else. Then in the temple we may be something else. We may be the temple president or the head pujari or whatever, or Sankirtan devotee. So we have so many roles we are playing, certainly, no doubt, and we can compare them to caps we are wearing. You know, we're wearing hats. So many different hats we have. So, but we are not the hat. We are only wearing it, right? Yes, but we are identifying with these roles. We think I am a woman, I am German or Indian or Russian or whatever it may be. So we are identifying with these caps and roles as if we are, as if we are thinking I am the hat. You know, so that's where the problem lies. We think it's me, and we forget that no, our real identity is Jiva Srupa Krishna Nityadas, eternal servant. That we forget, you know, and we identify with these temporary roles we are playing. This is basically the essence of the whole thing of, you know, false ego. And yes, I mean, we can say it's like in a madhouse, you know. Madhouse is a place, in a madhouse we often find people, they think they are Napoleon or Hitler or Beethoven or whatever. So all right, they get to the madhouse. We put them in the psychiatric ward there. So we can say, yeah, well, the whole material world is actually a madhouse where we all think to be something which we are not. Yes, this is really the situation, you know. So now, of course, let us understand how does this identification come about? I mean, usually when I give the course, I like to be interactive, but I'm not sure. Maybe just to save time, maybe I'll just tell you. Why do we identify with a role? Obviously, the identification comes about because it gives us some gratification, some enjoyment, some sense gratification, some ego satisfaction, you know, mainly, you know, prestige, honor, you know, oh, I am a teacher, oh, I'm a doctor, I'm a professor, oh, and, you know, so that there is some gratification there, some sense enjoyment. And that's why we get so attached to it. That's why we identify with it. And let us be clear, just by becoming a devotee, it does not mean that this whole thing is stopped. No, even within Krishna consciousness, you know, we accept all the roles, all the caps, and we identify with them deeply. I'm a brahmachari, I'm a grihasta, I'm a brahmacharini, I'm the head pujari, I'm a Sankirtan devotee. Oh, you know, it goes on and on. I'm temple president, even sannyasi, GBC, this is also an upadi. It's a temporary designation. It's not the true identity of within our relationship with Krishna, you know. In the spiritual world, no need for GBCs, you know. So this is just a role we are playing here, you know. And if we would, I mean, let us assume that our sannyasis and GBCs are beyond this problem of identifying with the role. But if we would identify with being GBC sannyasi, well, this will entangle us in the material world. You know, definitely it has to be given up. Has to be given up. So yeah, I mean, just by joining ISKCON and being initiated doesn't mean we are free from this whole this whole effect of the false ego. You know, I'm a brahmana, I'm a senior devotee, You know, yeah, it continues just the same in Krishna consciousness. You know, yes. So I mean, and we can maybe ponder a little bit for ourselves. Maybe after the seminar, you can take a little note there for you. As I'm saying, when I do the seminar properly, I do some sharing with a partner and this and that. But, you know, over Zoom, this is not so easily possible. But we can reflect a little bit which hat, which upadhi, which role and designation I am mainly attached to. Which one is it that gives me most satisfaction, you know, most honor, prestige, you know? Yeah, we can reflect a little bit just to become a little more conscious of how the ego is really affecting us, you know? And I mean, not wanting to hint at anybody here, but yeah, I like to mention this, and I mention it, of course, also in the book, that, for example, the designation of being a brahmachari, we've got a couple here in the room, this can be a very strong attachment, you know, to this designation. I am a brahmachari, you know, because there's quite a bit of prestige coming along, wearing the saffron cloth, and it can be a real tough one to give this up. You know, I'm not preaching here to the brahmacharis. I see here at least one of them so on the screen here. So I'm not preaching to you to give up your brahmachari life, definitely not. But yeah, it's good food for thought to be mindful of this. And just on my traveling and preaching, I come across this, that sometimes there may be a person who is still in the brahmachari ashram, but actually it would be time for him to move on to the next ashram. But because he's got this strong attachment to this designation, you know, and oh, what will everybody think when I put on white now and get married, and how embarrassing, and you know, it can be a big thing, It can be a stumbling block on one's spiritual journey. I've seen it all. Yes. I mean, let me take the opportunity. Many of you know me already, but you know, that's why this book is also so important, the importance of having a mentor, because really this is so connected with this topic of false ego. Without having a mentor, we cannot so easily become aware of how our false ego is pushing us, you know. We don't even realize we need a trusting, confidential person in our life who has no other interest except helping us in our spiritual journey, who we want to be instructed and corrected by, you know. And often it's only such a person who can actually give us the hint, hey, you know, you're a little too much on an ego trip here, you know. We wouldn't accept it from just anybody, but from such a trusting, confidential, well-wishing friend, where we know he's got no other interest except helping me. So there we may be open, you know, to hear. And this is also related, you know, I mean, this is, in my understanding, one of the most important aspects of brahmachari care, that a brahmachari needs such a well-wishing brahmachari friend who can see when it is the right time for him to change ashram, you know, because otherwise we have it too often in ISKCON that people, brahmacharis, get married when they're 48, you know, a little late, you know. Last course was the Vanapasta ashram a couple of weeks ago. We had gave the course on the Vanapasta ashram. So, I mean, you know, this should be starting with 50, but so often we have this, that brahmacharis give up their brahmachari life when they're 48 or 50 or 52. hey, what is this? You know, this can be avoided if the person has guidance, you know, who, and such a brahmachari mentor will help the brahmachari to, you know, see when is the right point in changing ashrams. Otherwise, very easily, you can be victim of the influence of the false ego and just stick to this ashram. And yeah, I've even seen people falling down then, you know, with somebody, with a non-devotee or something, because they missed the point in changing ashrams. But anyway, I don't want to carry on too long about this. But yeah, it's a very common thing, you know, that even within Krishna consciousness, we are just attached to this designation because it brings along, you know, quite some prestige and fame and so on, you know. Yes. Yes. Also, Prabhupada, in one nice purport in the Bhagavatam, I don't have the number now, but he makes this nice analogy. He says, you know, life in the material world is like a nonsensical stage performance. Nonsensical stage performance, one of my favorites. And this is really what it's all about. And it's very nicely describing the influence of the false ego. That, yeah, each lifetime is like a performance on the stage. So, and this lifetime, we are a German woman, and we, oh, yes, I have so many important things to do. I'm this, I'm that, you know, running. I'm so busy. So, and then death comes, curtain closes, show is over, dum, 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 finished. So, and then next lifetime, I am an Indian man. Oh, father, husband, professor, so busy, got so many things to do, running, too busy for Krishna. Forget it, leave me alone with Krishna. I'm so busy, got so many duties, you know. So, and same thing again. At the point of death, show is over, curtain finished, you know. So, and then next lifetime, dog in Sweden, you know. Barking, woo, 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 I'm the dog here, I have to protect this property, and dog also has a doggish subtle body, a doggish mind, doggish intelligence, doggish false ego, definitely. My God, you know, yes. So, and this is life in the material world, one lifetime after another. Nonsensical stage performance. And this all comes about, you know, through the influence of the false ego, that we identify so much with these roles and temporary situations we are in. We're really taking it in. We're taking it so seriously. We're taking it so to heart. And we forget the main thing, you know, actual reality, eternal reality of our eternal relationship with Krishna, that we forget. And then at the end of our life, you know, when we're facing death, we realize, oh, I blew it again. You know, I've forgotten the main and foremost thing. Jiva Svrupa Krishna Nityadas. Oh, I blew it again. You know, and it's all over. It's all finished. You know, so that is exactly how the false ego entangles us and makes us think we are something which we are not, just because these roles give some little gratification, you know. Yes, and that's why we identify with them. And I mean, it's very clear, you know, if we think ourselves to be something which we are not, this brings along anxiety, right? Has to. You know, let us take an example. We are servant at a king's court, and all of a sudden, can you close the door, please? All of a sudden, you know, we declare one day, I am the king now. Actually, we are the king's servant, but then we declare, I am the king. I mean, that would bring a lot of anxiety. that we think we are in anxiety. What if people realize that I'm actually not the king? And how can I really make them believe and convince them that I am the king? I mean, my God, what an anxiety you would be, constantly having to pretend to be something which we are not. Brings complete anxiety, So, and then, if that person says, anyway, let me just give up this game and let me just be the servant at the king's court again. What a relief, I don't have to pretend anymore to be something which I'm not. I don't have to be in anxiety whether people notice and realize and get suspicious and all that. So that's exactly what we experience in the material world, because we imagine to be something which we are not. We imagine to be the supreme controller. We imagine to be the supreme enjoyer, So this has to bring a lot of anxiety along, because we try to be something which we are not. So, and then maybe some of us can remember this when we actually come to Krishna consciousness. There is some relief there. I remember this definitely, completely, that I thought, oh, thank God. I don't have to try and be something which I'm not. I don't have to worry, which fashion to wear, that people don't judge me and that I'm in and part of people's groups. And it's so much anxiety out there, And I really, I remember what relief it was, okay, all I have to do is serve. Actually, this is really ecstatic, all I have to do is to serve and do my very best. And I don't have to show off and pretend to be something which I'm not, But then, unfortunately, this doesn't last for too long, And then in Krishna consciousness, we do again identify with all these temporary designations. And then again, we try to be the supreme controller and enjoyer and a really important person. And then it all starts again in Krishna consciousness too. If we don't hear very carefully, about this topic of false ego, So, but yeah, we can say the more we really give up this false identification and we identify ourselves with being servant and nothing else, the more we become relieved from all anxiety and we actually become truly peaceful. Only then we can become truly peaceful, As long as we try to be something which we are not, there will be no peace in our life. There will be anxiety. Very clear. Has to be like that, Has to be. Yeah, so, and I mean, even let us think of a few examples from daily life. For example, as a preacher, when we are nervous, I have to speak in front of hundreds of people. Oh, I'm so nervous. Well, why are we nervous? Because we are worried what we look like. That's already, again, false ego, So we are concerned, we want to look really cool and successful and knowledgeable, and we want to make some big impression on people or something. So then we are nervous. But if we just say to ourselves, okay, let me just serve these people to my best capacity. Doesn't matter if I look like a fool or if I do something really stupid or something, doesn't matter. All I am is servant anyway. And well, sorry, you just have to be happy with what kind of service I can offer you. So then you're not in anxiety, you're not nervous, You simply do your best, you serve the audience and you hope that, you can please them. But you're not so worried whether you look foolish and this and that. So, yeah, so this is, for example, a little example which illustrates how, as long as we are under the influence of the false ego, there will be no peace, there will be anxiety, like that. Yes. let me see. Well, we talked about a few things. There's a few more things I want to share. But yeah, let me first of all make this point that when we ask questions, please ask questions about what we discussed, because there's so much more to come, you know? So please don't ask anything. Please don't ask now, so how can we get free from the false ego? Well, it's all coming. Tomorrow, tomorrow we will already come to the first tools, very practical tools, you know? So please just ask questions about the topics we discussed and don't jump ahead, you know? I may just sometimes have to tell you, well, sorry, this is what we will discuss this tomorrow, or we will discuss this on Wednesday, and so on, you know? So just what we talked about, you know? But maybe I can, just to give you a little overview, maybe I can share this at this point before we open. If you have now questions, please send them to LW. Send them to LW. And my audience here, my live audience, can also think of questions, so I will not neglect you. Of course, I give first preference to them because you can also ask your questions later. But let me share this. We can say there is two main tracks on which we move forward in regards to dissolving the false ego. Two main principles, and they have to go side by side. One without the other will not do the job. So one track is chanting the holy name, but there is a certain secret to it, not just any kind of mumbling around there will dissolve the false ego. We will talk about that on the very last session, on next week, Saturday. There will be other points also, so many other points in that last session, but we will close the whole circle, the whole discussion on chanting the holy name. So the holy name is one track to free ourselves from the false ego, but it's not the only one. The second one is Vaishnava etiquette and culture. Very important. Some of you know I have inaugurated this little Institute for Spiritual Culture because I've spent quite a bit of time in Bangladesh over the last 20 years. And there I learned so many things about Vaishnava culture, how we are meant to apply and practically live our philosophy. And without Vaishnava etiquette and culture, we don't get anywhere. And simply it's because Vaishnava etiquette and culture, it's like Krishna's recommendations, how to act, even though we may fully be, you know, influenced by the false ego. But somehow we have to work our way out of these ego patterns of behaviors. And that's why Krishna gives us these recommendations in form of Vaishnava etiquette and culture. And if we follow them parallel to chanting the holy name deeply and sincerely, that's what helps us to get out of the ego, false ego identification. Without Vaishnava etiquette and culture, we will be trapped in these ego patterns of behaviors. Yes, very clear. You know, that's why etiquette and culture is so important. It's not just something from the Vedic days or something that only works in India or something. No. It's Krishna's recommendations to help us to reform our patterns of behaviors. Yes. So without Vaishnava etiquette and culture, we don't get anywhere. We are trapped in our ego patterns of behaviors. So tomorrow already, we will come to the first really important rule of Vaishnava etiquette, which here in the Western world, We often don't even talk about it. We don't even know about it. We don't even follow it. Yes. So, and then no wonder that we don't make much progress in dissolving our egos. And the point is, you know, we all know the 10th offense to chanting the holy name, to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. So if we maintain this attachment to this ego satisfaction, you know, that is a material attachment, very subtle, but it is a material attachment of wanting to gratify our egos. So if we maintain that, we cannot even get the benefit of chanting the holy name. We maintain the 10th, we commit the 10th offense, you know, and then we can chant for many, many lifetimes, as it says, Bahu Janma Kariyari Shavana Kirtanam, Tabu Tanaba Krishna Pade Premadana. In many temples, we chant this Bengali verse before we recite the 10 offenses, you know, and it says, you know, if we maintain, you know, if we commit these 10 offenses, we can chant for many, many lifetimes and not develop bhakti, you know. So that's how subtle it is, as long as we maintain this this attachment to this ego gratification. Holy name doesn't have that much power. We cannot really receive the Shakti which the holy name carries. That's why Mahaprabhu says, Chinada Pisunichina, we have to be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than the tree. You know, this is all means false ego dissolved. And only then we can really chant the holy name qualitatively, you know, we can actually really chant the holy name. Yeah, so, and these, I mean, I started realizing this after giving many years holy name retreats, you know, this is another one of my passions, you know, trying to serve devotees by inspiring them to get on deeper levels of chanting. So, and after doing so many holy name retreats over so many years, I started realizing, unless we talk at the same time about the false ego, we don't get anywhere with our holy name retreats, you know, because we chant, but then we fall back into our ego patterns of behavior, showing off this, that, you know, so it doesn't work, you know. So then I started realizing, no, we have to parallel to inspiring devotees to get on deeper levels of chanting, parallel to that, we have to discuss this topic of the false ego and bring awareness and consciousness of this about, you know, that people realize how the false ego is affecting us constantly. So these are the two tracks, the chanting of the holy name and Vaishnava etiquette and culture. They have to go parallel. One without the other will not do the job. If we only follow Vaishnava etiquette and culture, oh yes, we are so cultured, you know, but we don't chant, well, that's also not going to do the job. We will realize that on Friday, on next Saturday, when we have the last session, next week Saturday, you know, that the chanting is one of the main tools to dissolve the ego. But if we only chant and we don't follow Vaishnava etiquette and culture, will also not get us there, you know, because as I just described, we are trapped in these ego patterns of behaviors very deeply, you know, because they're so deep, you know, false ego, we've been carrying it with us for lifetimes. It's so deep, so subtle, very difficult to really free ourselves from it. But we will get a few good tools. Yes. Okay, so let me see now. There is still some more to come. We still got plenty of time. So let me see if we have some questions so far, but please about what we discussed so far. Do we have any questions, Elder Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, yes, we have some questions. But unfortunately, there was some distractions for me in chat, in some technical things. So I did something in your initial introduction, and maybe some of the questions will not be in the topic. I'm sorry.
Okay, so let me just hear.
Yes. So 2 questions from Franca Mataji.
From who?
Franca Mataji.
Okay, yes.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. You said that we should have the attitude, let me simply serve these people by my best capacity. How do I know that the service which I do is the will of Krishna and not of my false ego? Thank you. Your servant, Franca Mataji. This is the first question.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is one reason why we should always serve under guidance of senior devotees. Yeah? Senior devotees, more experienced devotees, they guide us. And they let, I mean, also our principle is to please the devotees, So that will give us some feedback there, some indication whether the devotees are pleased with our service, Yes. I mean, serving under guidance is really the key. We by ourselves, very true, and that's what we also discuss in the Sheltering Relationships book here, that as long as we have material desires and attachments, we cannot objectively assess ourselves. We cannot, And yeah, you're very true. We may think, oh yeah, this is a great service and I want to do this. But then it may just be some ego trip there, we are on or something. And often we also get some indication that sometimes Krishna just doesn't allow things to take off. We may have some idea, some plan, and we endeavor, but somehow it's just not happening. It's just not, we can't do it. And there's always some obstacles coming. So then this may be an indication that, yeah, we have our plans, but Krishna has his plan. And maybe it's just not his plan that we do this project or service or whatever, Also, one thing I once heard in a class which falls into this question, I heard this in a class which I thought was very nice. When we try to do something, we have a good plan and we somehow know we can do it, but somehow we are not getting the opportunity, then it usually means that Krishna can see we are not qualified to deal with the success. And that's why he doesn't allow us to do it. Meaning, again, we are not humble enough to tolerate the success, And yeah, I mean, I certainly can remember this from my own life, that I often was in that situation that I thought, well, actually, I could do so much more, but somehow it's almost like Krishna puts the handbrakes on, So, and then after a while, Krishna releases the handbrakes, and when I look back, I can clearly see, yes, well, I was certainly not qualified, to deal with the success, and I was too much ego motivated, and so on, So yeah, these things come to my mind with this question, But yes, we have to serve under guidance, and senior devotees will let us know. They can see what is good for us, And I mean, yeah, later on in the materials, I think on Wednesday, there is also a little point that, and I can mention it here now, since we're talking about it a little bit, that sometimes we prematurely put young devotees into some position and control over people. And it's based on their material qualification. You know, we may have somebody joining who may be studied at the university management, you know, and then we think immediately, wow, this person is so together, he's switched on. So let him be the head of this and this department. But this can be really detrimental to a person's spiritual development because it can completely feed his ego. Then he starts thinking, oh, look at me. I'm a new devotee, but I'm so much more together than all these other guys. I know it all better, you know. And that can completely ruin a person's devotional life, you know, because it feeds the ego, you know. So yeah, I mean, this is also connected with your question because we may have some material qualification and we may be thinking, yes, I should be doing the service, but maybe it's better not to do the service yet and just become a humble servant first, you know? And we cannot see this, obviously. You know, somebody else has to see this. And I have to say, you know, I've observed this, that very often we make this mistake. We empower people based on material qualifications because we attach to a quick result, quick and external result, you know. And yeah, and then we may get the quick and external result short term, but long term, we may lose a devotee. Sooner or later, there will be conflicts, you know, because if we are ego driven, we may be able to get things done. But sooner or later, if we're ego driven, we will get sooner or later into some conflicts, you know. Yeah, so we have to be very careful, you know. Yes, yes. We need some spiritual qualification if we want to, you know, have some, yeah, more some position or some leadership position, you know. We have to be humble servants. Otherwise, it will easily spoil our whole spiritual development. You know. Any other questions?
Yeah, the second question. The second question from Franca Mataji is about Vaishnava etiquette. I think we will talk about it later.
Yeah.
The next,
I mean, what is she asking? Let me hear.
How can we apply Vaishnava etiquette when we do not live with Vaishnavas? How do we apply this in association with non-Vaishnavas?
Yeah, well, that is certainly difficult. That I can answer even without, you know, the session tomorrow of coming to the first points of Vaishnava etiquette. But actually, no, now I'm just thinking, and really, I don't want to get into the question because tomorrow we will discuss this. So, and there, at least the first really important principle in Torah we will talk about tomorrow. So, and there we will realize that we can, even to some extent, to a large extent, we can practice them also with non-devotees, actually. Yes. But I mean, this is why it is so important to live together with devotees, you know? Yes. I mean, the closer you live with devotees, the more you're in the purifying fire of devotional life. We experience this here in Simhachalam. we have about 35, 40 people living on the property. We live like a big family. This morning we had a gigantic Mangalati with about 35 people at Mangalati, you know. Mangalati is here the most popular temple program, I would say, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, they are agreeing here. We're sitting in my room.
And smiling.
Yeah, so, and yeah, and we eat together, you know, so that if you're associating so closely, there's so much purifying situations there, you know, you are exposed, all kinds of stuff comes up to the surface. If you gossip, if you criticize, it comes back to you for sure, you know, so then you have to really follow the etiquettes much more strictly, you're pushed, but if you live far away from the devotees, or even if you don't live so far away, but you only come once a week for a 3-hour program on the weekend or something, there's no way you have the same, purifying effect there. No way. Yes. What else? Any other questions?
Yeah. From Mohan Gopal Prabhu. What are the symptoms of false ego? Does false ego always lead us to arrogance?
Okay, that is a good question, which I also have here on a little note here. No, false ego does not always lead to pride and arrogance. That's one effect, that we think ourselves to be so great and fantastic and the center of the universe and all this. But then it can also have the effect that we feel all mental and insecure, and we have complexes. This is also an effect of the false ego, which we very often we don't realize, actually. And it is an effect of the false ego, because the false ego wants us to look great and fantastic. But because of our material abilities, we may just not have the qualities to, look so fantastic. We may not be able to live up to the standard, what the false ego demands. And then we become more mental and insecure, and we have all complexes. Oh, everybody can sing like that, but only I can't. And and I'm nothing, and I will never make it. And and we become more mental. So this is also an effect of the false ego, interestingly. Yes. So it works both ways, that we are overconfident and we think we are so great, and that's probably the more popular version of the false ego, that we think ourselves to be so fantastic and so on. But then there is also this other effect, that we get very mental, because we can't be as fantastic as we want to be. And we look at others and we compare and we think, oh, they're all so much better. Again, it's just we're looking at the externals. Krishna doesn't look at the externals. Krishna looks at the love and devotion, But that, if we are under the influence of the false ego, we cannot see this. We only look at the externals, what gives prestige and fame and adoration and distinction and all that, And we don't see, we cannot see and understand that Krishna looks at the love and devotion. So even if we can't sing nicely and off tune or whatever it may be, still, if it is offered with love and devotion, Krishna will accept it. Maybe even much more than the person who makes some fantastic offering there, but it is all just for fame and name, Yes. Anything else?
Yeah, from Columbus Ramesh Prabhu.
Okay.
Why does the intelligence tend to be easily taken over by the false ego?
Yeah. Well, why? Because false ego is just so subtle, so powerful, and it just affects the intelligence completely. We will discover this more in due course of the in due course of the seminar. How the intelligence gets so affected by the false ego. My God, yes. There's no real why, we can't really ask why. Well, that's the way Krishna set up this whole game here in the material world, So yeah, very tricky game, very tricky game. Yes. Any other question?
Yeah, from Mataji Kamila. How to make the ego positive? how to make the ego positive for us and make it to help us in devotional service to Krishna.
How to make what?
The ego positive for us.
Well, it is a question of dissolving the false ego, and then we get the real ego. Jiva Srupa Krishna Nityadas. I'm simply insignificant, tiny little servant of the servant of the servant. That identification is the real ego, the real me, right? So it's not a question of making the false ego positive or something, but no, we have to dissolve it. We have to give it up like that, you know, and then we come to our real identity, who we are, you know. Simply insignificant servant, right? And I mean, how to do this, we will discover. Any other question?
No, other questions are out of topic, maybe after this session.
Okay. Well, let me just share one little interesting thing. That the bigger our false ego is, the less we can recognize it. One would think that it is the other way round. You know, the bigger the ego is, the more we can see it. But no, it's the other way around. The bigger it is, the less we can recognize it. That's how the ego blocks our ears, blocks the intelligence. We can't see, we can't hear. And just to illustrate this, I want to share one funny little story I experienced a few years ago. Quite a few years ago. There was one Mataji, yeah, her ego was very prominent, you know, very strong. And as a result of that, she got herself always into conflicts, you know, and she was moving from one temple to another, you know, because people were getting tired of her. So she went somewhere else and so on. And as we can imagine, she was not very happy about the situation, you know. So she once kind of made a little friends with me, and I thought, all right, let me try and help her to understand the problem, you know. And I was very careful, and I was just in our conversation, I was hinting a little bit, and I was saying, well, you know, sometimes this false ego just always gets us into trouble. Something like that, I said, you know, very carefully. And her reaction, you wouldn't believe it. She was cracking up laughing, saying, false ego, come on, what's that? I don't have that. That was her response. Come on, false ego, what's that? I don't have that. I was so shocked. I was thinking, how is it possible? You know, she's got such a prominent ego, and she thinks she doesn't have a false ego. Oh my God, I was completely speechless. I didn't know what to say. And all I ventured to answer was, well, I wish I could say that about me, myself. That's all I said. I wish I could say that about me. I didn't say any more. I thought, no use to even try and say anything else. So but this is really what it's like. You know, the bigger the ego is, the less we understand, the less we can see it. It completely blocks us. And as we become a little purified, we become more receptive, we become more sensitized. And then only we realize, oh, here we go again. My ego is in my way. So it actually takes some little initial purification to notice, you know. And that's why it is so important to follow the Vaishnava etiquette, you know. If we just follow Krishna's recommendations, then we have a chance, you know, to transform our patterns of behaviors. Otherwise, we are completely trapped and stuck in it, you know, because while it is more prominent, we cannot even notice. We don't notice. I mean, I have to be honest, it took me so many years to notice this within myself, really, so many years. I remember, many years ago, or maybe not even so many years ago, people were sometimes saying to me, well, what you say is all very good and nice, but the way how you say it, and I didn't understand, I thought, and my answer was, well, if I say the right thing, if it's good, so why don't you accept it, all right, this is the way I am a little pushy and direct and all this, but, just accept what I'm saying, what's the problem? That's how I am. But then, only later I realized, it is the ego which spoils everything and poisons everything. We will get to this later, But just to, share with you that, well, giving the seminar doesn't mean I'm free from false ego. No, not at all. And as you become a little more purified, you realize how strong the ego is. My God, yes. So it's a whole big topic. Shall we continue? Yes, huh? Yes, okay, because we still have a bit of time. Yeah, so now, 1858. In Bhagavad Gita, you have the number on the sheet, but not the verse itself. Gives us a very nice clue about the false ego. 1858. There Krishna says, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. Very nice verse, So basically, Krishna gives us two choices of action. So either we can become conscious of him, and meaning we work under his instructions. We understand I'm simply humble, eternal servant of the servant of the servant, So if we take that path, then we can overcome all the obstacles of conditioned life by Krishna's grace. Which verse is it? Somebody's asking. 1858. You should have the materials in front of you, and there's the number mentioned towards the second half there of the materials, 1858. Yeah, so that's the first path, becoming conscious of Krishna, meaning we work under his instructions. Of course, we follow his etiquette, his recommendations, Vaishnava etiquette and culture, and we try to understand our eternal position of humble servant. So if we take that path, we can overcome all the obstacles. And then Krishna says, second option he's giving us, if however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me. That's exactly the effect of the false ego. We can't hear Krishna, we can't hear the devotees, we are blocked, So, and then we will be lost. Yes, lost, meaning entangled lifetime after lifetime in the material world. And lost also, I mean, this is quite practical. I have pondered over some, different situations in my life, and I can clearly see now, retrospective, looking back, I can see that most of the times when I got myself somehow into trouble, I acted through false ego. I had some ego motivation there. Often these things are very subtle, and at that time we don't even realize. But then later, we get ourselves somehow into trouble. So it is a very practical thing. You can even ponder over this yourself when you look back in your life, when you found yourself in some miserable situations. Very often, most of the times, we create our own miseries by having this ego motivation in grosser or subtle ways, and sometimes it's so subtle we may not even understand now looking back. So depending on how much we are a little purified that we can see it, or where the ego was prompting us and pushing us. But this is really how it works. The ego motivation gets us into trouble. And this is quite an interesting point, that there is really two kinds of motivating forces. We have two kinds of motivating forces. One motivating force is, I want to become this, I want to become that, I want to, have success in this way, in that way, in the other way. I want to become a doctor, a lawyer, even I want to become a preacher, I want to become whatever, So there, the designation motivates us. We take that as motivating force. So that is the ego motivation. But then there is also a second motivating force, the motivating force of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is motivated by simply wanting to serve and nothing else. All I want to do is serve. I want to please the devotees and serve. That is actually the motivating force which a Vaishnava should run on, type thing, It took me some years to understand all these things also, and I remember once I was giving this course in Mayapur. Usually at this time of the year, I'm always in Mayapur and I'm giving all my courses there. So, and there once one devotee was in the audience and he asked me, but Mataji, didn't you have, that goal of becoming a preacher and becoming an author and writing books and all this? And I started realizing, no, I never had that goal. I never was aiming at this. No, definitely not. I simply, my formula was simply to serve and to please the devotees. I mean, even 20 years ago, I would have never imagined that I'm writing books, my God, no. And 30 years ago, I was never imagining I would, travel and preach with a shaved head and white. I was never aiming for these things. No. I was simply trying my best to serve in whatever situation I was in. I wanted to serve and please the devotees. And from that, everything else comes at the right time. Yes, this is how it works in spiritual life, in bhakti. If we just serve, Paramatma in the heart witnesses, our sincerity. And if we are ready to handle the success, then all the different doors open at certain times. Krishna gives all the different opportunities at the right time to take us further. We can completely rely on this, completely. And I mean, this is a very comforting thought. I find this, to be a very comforting thing, that actually it's not that we have to have some whole career lined up there, what we want to do and how will we become successful and in our devotional life and this and that. No, we only have to serve sincerely. And of course, follow the whole process also, not only serve, but serving includes Shravanam, Kirtanam, chanting the holy name. And you know, all we have to do is follow the process sincerely and really try to please the devotees. And from there, everything will come at the right time. Because I mean, our senior devotees, they want, you know, that we develop, that the Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement flourishes, that the different communities develop. They want that. So they will see, they will recognize how they can, you know, engage us, you know, and they can see, oh, this person has some capacities. Okay, let him go and study. Let him spend 6 months in Mayapur after Corona is finished, hopefully. Or he needs this, he needs that to really grow and develop himself, you know. Yes. So we don't have to plan a whole thing there of how we become successful and line up a whole career in devotional life or something. No. Because that would be then again the ego motivation. You know, I want to become a successful preacher or something. No. If we just serve, the right doors open at the right time. That's the, you know, the motivation as a Vaishnava which we should have. And I have to admit, I often observe this, that people don't understand this, you know, and often young devotees, they want to be prominent, you know, personalities or something, and you know, or sometimes I come across this, that very young devotees, they say, oh, can you send me the materials? Then I also want to give the seminar. You know, I mean, sorry, you know, it doesn't work like that in spiritual life. It's not just a question of getting the materials and then you can deliver the seminar or something. You actually need some maturity. You need a little bit of realization and so on. And you need some blessing, some empowerment from Guru and Krishna or something. It's not just a question of, oh yeah, I'm going to do that too. And, you know, that's completely the ego, the ego motivation path, you know, and that will not lead us to success in the process of developing pure devotional service. You know, it's the other path, that we simply want to serve. And if we sacrifice ourselves in service, that's how we capture Krishna's merciful glance upon us and his attention. And then he will give us some empowerment and some blessings, you know. Yeah, so I find this so important to understand for devotees, these two motivating forces, you know. Actually, you know, in this regard, yeah, I have a bank account here in Germany, and on the website of the bank, it says they have this motto, this sutra. Everybody has something that keeps him going. In German, jeder hat etwas, was ihn antreibt. Yeah, so yeah, that's the false ego, you know. Everybody's got something that keeps him going. But interestingly, the false ego has also some little good aspect there. Some little beneficial part is also there in the ego motivation. Because let us be honest, in the beginning of our spiritual life, the ego motivation is so much stronger than the motivation of serving and pleasing Krishna and the devotees. You know? Yes, it is. It is. So the false ego, in one sense, is also Krishna's trick. How Krishna tricks us into serving. Yes. For example, let me take this example of being in a woman's body. So what teaches a soul in a woman's body to actually serve is that ego motivation of I am mother, I am wife. That gets us hopping, you know. Then we have to run and cook and clean. And yes, for our children, for our husband, oh, we want to cook. Yes, no problem, you know. But for Krishna, for senior devotees or devotees, oh no, I'm tired. You know, we don't want that. So that motivation of serving Krishna is just not that strong, especially in the beginning, unfortunately. You know, so that's why a little bit of ego motivation is helpful. You know, that is one of the main reasons why it is highly recommended for every woman to go through the school of married life. You know, yes, because there we learn how to serve. Yes, without that, not so easy, you know, for somebody in a woman's body to learn that. And because, again, Krishna tricks us by giving us this emotional nature, which is part of the whole ego, false ego effect, you know, that we identify with being a woman. And Krishna builds into the female body, subtle body, higher emotional needs. And they also motivate us to be mother and wife. You know, who on earth would want to be a mother if it wasn't for the emotional nature, right? The emotional nature makes us want to be mother because it fulfills our emotional needs, this exchange between mother and child and having a husband and all that. You know, so Krishna perfectly builds this in just so we want to be, play that role, you know, because yeah, being a mother is only a tapasya, only austerity, 9 months pregnancy and then giving birth, you know, so hellish and painful, then running around, you know, like mad 24/7, you know, no off day and all these things, you know, mother, you don't have a day off, you know. Yeah, so this is all Krishna's trick, you know, that he gives us this false ego and us women this emotional nature, and that impels us to want to serve and play that role. So now the whole purifying journey is that sooner or later we have to let go of this hat of I am mother, you know? Yes, when the children become teenagers. And I always observe how difficult this is for most mothers to take off this mother hat, you know, and say, so now finished. You know, I've done my job as mother and it's over now, you know, because when the kids are 15, 16, mother cannot control and instruct and correct anymore. You know, she will completely ruin the relationship with her children. You know, that stage of 16 is when we have to cut this umbilicum cord, and you know, and the child wants to establish him or herself in life and be their own personality and so on. So the mother cannot continue being mother, you know, and always correcting, instructing, and chastising, and yes. And I often see how mothers just can't stop being mother. Even when the child is 40, you know, they still they still tell the child what to do, what not to do, and you know. Yeah, so there has to be that point where we take off the mother's cap and say, okay, so now is the time for more friendship, and you know, and I have to allow that person to make their own mistakes, and even if they get themselves into trouble and so on, you know. So yeah, and if we play this role of mother within Krishna consciousness, then it is purifying. Within solid Krishna consciousness, sincere Krishna consciousness, you know, serious practice. You know, just being mother without spiritual practice is entangling, because we will not get rid of this mother's hat, and we identify forever with being mother, and the family attachments bind us and so on, you know. But within serious spiritual practice, The whole thing is purifying, because there is a time when we have to take off that mother's hat, and there is the time when we should move on to the Vanaprastha seminar we've discussed last time. And yeah, and then it is a whole purifying journey, you know. And same thing is also there for the men. Men, because they're, you know, I discussed this in the book in more detail in the book Spiritual Culture, Krishna's Divine System. You know, that man and woman are very different. They have very different natures, qualities, because according to Krishna's recommendation, they're meant to play different roles. So man is meant to take charge. That's one of his roles: protect, provide, take charge. So Krishna gives the male body, the male subtle body, a stronger false ego. Anybody who's married here has that experience, that the male ego is quite strong. So Krishna builds that in to the male body, just to make sure he wants to play the role of taking charge. That ego motivates him. He wants to play that role. If he didn't have that stronger ego, he probably wouldn't want to play the role, but somebody has to play it, you know? So that's why Krishna gives the male body a stronger false ego. So that motivates him to play the role of taking charge. But then again, within Krishna consciousness, he will get purified, because he has to learn, you know, to take charge and lead as humble servant. And that's a real challenge, you know. Yes. So there is initially, you know, some benefit in the false ego, because it motivates us. But then in serious Krishna consciousness, that ego motivation has to be transformed, you know, and it has to be gradually, it's a whole gradual thing, you know. We can imagine, you know, on one end of the spectrum is the ego motivation. On the other end of the spectrum is the motivation of wanting to please Krishna and his devotees. So, and gradually, that motivation has to be transformed. We all start with the ego motivation, and then gradually, we, you know, through chanting and following Vaishnava etiquette, ego hopefully gets gradually dissolved and subdued. And then gradually, there should, the motivation should set in that we want to please Guru, Krishna, Prabhupada, the devotees, you know, like that. But it is a gradual journey, you know. So initial ego is, you know, quite helpful motivation initially, but we have to get gradually rid of it, you know. Yeah, I mean, we can observe this in many things, even things like, let's say, possessions, you know. My car. So my car is always nicely taken care of. If it's the temple's car, very often they're complete bombs, you know, because everybody just bashes them around. Nobody cleans them. Nobody services. Oh, it's just temple. It's Krishna's, you know. So unfortunately, you know, the vision of this is Krishna's is not motivating us as much as if it is mine. Unfortunately, you know. So, yes. I mean, that's, by the way, that's also why grihastas need personal possessions. Because grihasta life is all about I, me, and mine. My wife, my children, you know, my husband. And again, there is a good portion in it, because that motivates a grihasta to be responsible. It's mine, you know. And for his property, he takes nicely care, you know, car, house, garden. Oh, my garden looks very nice, you know. But garden around the temple, all right, if I'm paid, then I'll do something maybe or something, you know. But yeah, that same motivation is unfortunately not there, you know. But yeah, personal property, motivates a grihasta to be to be responsible and really to work hard, you know. But if it's all Krishna's and, you know, nothing belongs to me and I'm just maintained or something, well, then easily we just do the bare minimum, you know. I remember even, you know, well, how long is it ago? 30 years ago it's now. We while I was married, we started the temple in Riga in Latvia. And we very early, we had already a temple shop there. This was in 89, 90, even more than 30 years ago. So, and we had this temple shop. We were importing all things from India, a whole container full of stuff, you know, but as long as the temple shop was just a temple department and we were paying people there, serving there, but the temple shop was not really taking off. You know, people were just sitting up their time there in the shop and just going home and doing the bare minimum. But then we privatized it, you know, and we gave people some incentive there, some financial incentive. So it's your shop, you get a percentage there. Oh, then people get fired up and they get all kinds of ideas. And okay, we make some special this week to move this product on and we get some new thing in. And, you know, then all of a sudden the shop was flourishing, you know. So that these are examples how the false ego initially has some good part in it too. Because, yeah, it is a strong motivating force. Especially in the beginning of our spiritual life. And then we are expected to have that same, you know, that same, you know, dedication and that same spirit of sacrifice for Krishna, not only because it's mine, but it's Krishna's shop. But that takes quite a bit of, purification and advancement also, you know. I mean, we can often see this also, you know, non-devotees, they work so hard, you know, driven by false ego, wanting to be successful and earn lots of money. And there's so much competition out there. And often we devotees think, you know, because we don't want any material success, we just lay back and we do something little and you know, we don't work as hard as the non-devotees very often, you know, very often. Yes. Yeah, so because that ego motivation is maybe then not there and then we take it easy, you know. Yes. Okay. Do we have any question about just that point? About the two different motivating forces. Any questions here from my audience? Any questions, Prabhu? Elder Prabhu?
About these two motivations, no.
No. Okay. There Satyamataji is raising her hands. You want to say something?
Sorry, I just wanted to ask you. You mentioned it's the culture etiquette, Vaishnava etiquette. I'm sorry, I didn't read your book yet. But is it all you mean Vaishnava etiquette and culture in the book you published about Vaishnava culture, spiritual culture? Would we find all the principles and everything? If we want to really study Vaishnava etiquette and get it right.
I mean, see, in all my books and seminars, we always connect with the spiritual culture because, you know, the culture's coming about by living our philosophy. You know, so in all my books, you will find so many points of Vaishnava etiquette and culture because that's always where it comes back to. And that's also what's really lacking at the moment in ISKCON, you know. Yeah, we're not quite there yet and really living our philosophy. We like to learn it and repeat it and learn it by heart and preach it. But now comes the next step that we actually have to practically apply it and live accordingly. And we are not there yet. It requires systematic training and education, especially in the Western world, because we're so bombarded by the opposite, you know, materialistic culture promotes the opposite, you know. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else?
Well, I think maybe they are related, so I will read small ones. So from Mrinalini Radhika Devidasi, what makes a woman not want to be a mother?
What makes a woman not want to be a mother? Well, it goes a little off the topic, you know. But let me quickly, briefly answer to it. I mean, as a rule, I dare say it may be, well, bluntly said, it may be selfishness. Because, you know, we know when we're a mother, we have to serve. No way out. You know, we have to be there, whether we like it or not. And especially, you know, in these modern days, we want to be independent, we want to be free, we want to do what we want to do. And when we're a mother, we can't. You know, so that's definitely one reason. And also another reason may be that we have this misconception that we think children are a big impediment and disturbance in our spiritual development. But it's just the opposite. If we take this topic of children seriously, it puts a whole different dimension to family life. Yes. I mean, let me announce at this point that not now coming week, but the week after, 18th to 22nd of January, I will give a course about children, but I will not give it over this platform, but I will give it here in our Samachalam community, because we have quite a few new couples here who want to have children. And not only that, it's also a topic highly relevant for brahmacharis even, and unmarried people and old people, you know. Actually, many things I share in this course, I learned from the brahmacharis in Bangladesh, how they deal with children. So I will give this course 18th to 22nd, Monday to Friday, as morning and evening program here in Simachalam. And you can watch it live, or even later on the recordings on the YouTube channel of Simachalam. So if you go on YouTube and you search simhachalam.de, you will come to the Simachalam YouTube channel. And there you will find that course as morning and evening program, German time. And the recordings will be also there for later on, you know, they download always the recordings there. And I will give it in English, you know. So yes, just a bit of advertisement here. Highly important topic. We have such misconceptions that we think our children are disturbance, they're burden, oh, I cannot serve, and you know, so that may be the other reason why women in Krishna consciousness may not want to be mothers, because they have no clue how children actually help us in our spiritual life if we take it seriously in bringing up children in Krishna consciousness. It's a whole big topic. There's so much misconception there still in Krishna consciousness. Okay, any other question?
Yeah. Mohanasini Radha Mataji. Is that also false ego if we just lay back and stay lazy?
Well, that's tamaguna. Stay back and lazy, that's tamaguna. And yeah, I mean, I remember once hearing in a lecture, it was from Chaitanya Chandra Charan Prabhu, popular Russian guru. He was saying, yeah, don't give up the false ego too early. Don't give it up too early. Otherwise, you may end up, just lay back and lazy, and then you have given up the ego motivation before you cultivated the motivation to serve Krishna, So then better, not to give it up too early, like that. Let me say a few more points to wrap up the discussion for today. We've still got 15 minutes. We can maybe conclude that really the false ego is like our main enemy. In the Bhagavatam, we also hear the uncontrolled mind is the main enemy. But really, uncontrolled mind also affects the false ego. As I'm saying, you cannot distinguish them. They really merge into each other backwards and forwards, But false ego, because we identify with these designations, with these roles, they keep us trapped. And false ego, we can almost see like a little entity which whispers all kinds of nonsense into our ear all day long, oh my God, whispering in our ear, yes, you're right, you know better, just your vision is the best, just tell everybody, and everybody has to understand how good you are, and that you know it all, and I mean, my God, and we just follow the ego's demands, The ego demands that satisfaction, that we want to be great and so important and fantastic in the center of the universe. And it's like a little entity whispering all this nonsense into our ears, and we believe it. We jump for it, And we really take it in, and we want to give that satisfaction to the ego, So I remember, usually when I give this course in live, I make some role plays. I divide the audience in groups and they perform some role plays. And I remember once we had the seminar in Bangladesh, and the devotees made this really nice role play on this topic. There was a group of brahmacharis had the topic of false ego and the hats, so there was one devotee, he had this black burqa on, and he was the false ego, and he was always whispering into the devotees' ears, this thing, that thing, The scene was one devotee was getting ready for a preaching program, and then the false ego in the black burqa was always dancing around him, whispering, oh, wear this kurta, oh, wear this thing, and put that on, and oh yeah, now you look really cool, and this and that, it was so nicely done. It was really fantastic. Or then another role play was the hats, the devotee had this whole pile of hats on his head, accepting, or yes, I'm brahmachari, yes, I'm this, yes, I'm Sankirtan devotee now, and the pile of hats was getting bigger and bigger there. So, and then somehow he realized, and Krishna appeared on the scene, and he was offering all the hats at Krishna's lotus feet. Oh, you take them, I don't want them anymore, and all I want to do is serve you, and so on, So, you can come up with very sweet ideas to, to perform these little things there with the false ego. But yeah, false ego, it's really the main cause of all conflicts. So many inner battles, so many tortures we experience through the ego, Even we can waste so much time and energy with all these ego battles, especially married life. Oh my God, anybody who is married knows, it can become a whole battlefield for the false egos. Who is right and who is wrong? And just see, I told you so. And why didn't you listen to me? And, it's all ego stuff, I often have people coming to me with their marriage problems, and they often say, oh, I don't know why we are arguing about all these little things, They're often just petty things, but Well, I know it's the ego, you know, that we always want to be right and know better and just see and, you know. So we create so many miseries for us with these ego battles, you know, and yeah, so many conflicts. I mean, even interestingly, you know, we always think the mind gives us trouble when we chant, you know, when we chant our japa, the mind. But actually, once you understand more how the ego functions, we can actually realize, no, it's not so much the mind, it's the false ego. The false ego is triggering off the mind, you know, and all kinds of things come into our minds, you know, like, for example, when certain conversations go around in our head, they go around and around and around, and we can't stop thinking about it. And oh, and then he said this, and I should have said that, and it's all ego. It's all ego. Whenever things go in our mind around and around in circles, it's the ego, you know, pushing us, harassing us, torturing us. And we don't even realize, you know, we think, yeah, it's me and I'm thinking and so on. But no, it's just the ego giving us a hard time, you know, and taking us on a drive here, you know, and then of course the mind sets in, you know, the mind gets pushed by the ego, you know, like that. So it's, you know, I mean, tomorrow when you chant your rounds, try and check yourself, you know, when the mind takes you for a journey. Behind it is usually the ego, you know, it's usually the ego actually. Yeah. All right. I'm just looking if there's something which I forgot. Yeah, I think for today we are pretty much through it. So yeah, I will not present anything new now. So whoever, you know, wants to quit is welcome to quit. But if you have any more little questions you want to ask, or if you just want to say Haribol if I know you, or even if I don't know you, or whatever. So I'm willing to stay on a little longer. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, we have some questions.
Okay, let's continue the questions.
Yeah. The additional question to the last one. The last one was, is that false ego if we just lay back and stay lazy? And the addition to it is how to help devotees dear to us to change their attitude being lazy.
Well, I mean, it goes off a little bit off the topic, because obviously it's not only connected with false ego, but it's just general tamaguna, you know, laziness is always tamaguna, very clear. And again, Krishna gives us recommendations how to get out of tamaguna, you know, that we accept the sattvic lifestyle, we get up early, you know, we follow the process of sadhana bhakti, we associate with people who are not lazy, you know. I mean, association is very powerful. If we associate with lazy people, we also become lazy. But if we associate with people who like to be active and like to, you know, work hard and serve, and so then we realize, oh, this is actually nectar to serve and really give you very best in service. Then we get some taste, you know. Yeah, so it's not so connected with the false ego topic, but it's just, yeah, cleanliness gets us up out of tamaguna, you know, and also even tidiness, if the room is a whole big mess, and you know, this is also tamasic, you know, So we have to invite principles into our life which promote the mode of goodness, really, you know. What else?
Question about Columbus Ramesh Prabhu. Just to reconfirm that I understood, is that false ego makes sadhakas less motivated than materialistic, fruitive mentality persons? With more purification, sadhakas will get more motivated in service to Krishna and devotees.
Can you repeat the last thing? Sadhakas with more material motivation, no, material qualification. What did you say?
With more purification, sadhakas
more purification or qualification?
Purification.
Purification.
Yeah.
Sadhakas with more purification do what?
Will get more motivated in service to Krishna and devotees.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it is a question of purification that will transform our ego motivation into the motivation of simply wanting to serve, you know, the purification. And very often, I mean, that there's one purport in the first canto in connection with Queen Kunti where Prabhupada says, you know, how does he say it? Let me quickly look it up in my verse book, where Prabhupada points out that the aspects of material success, you know, can be an obstacle, you know. 4 principles of material advancement, namely high parentage, good wealth, high education, and attractive beauty, are, so to speak, disqualifications for progress on the path of spiritual advancement, Prabhupada says. So, in other words, these aspects of material advancement, they can be an obstacle because they usually lead to pride. That's the problem. You know, as soon as we have some little opulence, we are intelligent, we are highly educated, we are wealthy, or immediately it feeds the ego. Look at me, I'm so great, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, it has to be dealt with carefully, you know? So, but of course, it doesn't mean that a wealthy or highly educated person cannot become a pure devotee, but because of this false ego, very easily it can become an obstacle, you know?
Thank you, Vanda. Thank you.
Okay. What else?
We'll try to read from Gaia Duplessis. I will try to ask for video. The question is, when one becomes aware of the feeling of attachment to these roles and designations, and how binding that is there a way to faster soothe ourselves?
Is there a way to do what? Is there a way
to faster soothe? I don't know what is this. Soothe, yeah, ourselves to releasing it. I can unmute this person, so maybe you will do better to talk.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
So my question is, when so exploring the roles and designations, and then like feeling the attachment to not wanting to let go of that designation, or like the attachment to wanting to experience that life or that role or whatever, so as a mother or as a wife or so on and so forth, is there a way to like soothe ourselves into giving up that role without, you know, like, or do you genuinely just have to like kind of like go along with it while following the process?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. That's the way I mean, if you talk about the role of being mother and wife, definitely there's no way out. You know, that's why Krishna gives us the ashrams. So there's the Brahmacharini ashram where we study. But then for most of us, there's very few exceptions. But as a rule, Prabhupada says this also through the Bhagavatam, you know, as a rule for a woman, it is the journey that we go through this experience in serious Krishna consciousness, and that will free us and you know, bring us to the point of detachment. And Krishna knows what we need. You know, we have to rely on Krishna, that he gives the right, he makes the right arrangement. Like for myself, for example, I was married for 10 years. We were trying to have children, but it just didn't happen. So, you know, then, all right, we accept that as Krishna's ways, you know, and Krishna's plan, because Krishna knows what we need. But I see it again and again when people try to make shortcuts. They think, this having children is just too much headache. I can't serve when I have children. Let me just avoid having children. Then we interfere in the normal plan and the plan of nature, you know. We try to artificially interfere and cut corners, and that usually backfires. We usually get some negative results for this, you know. So and
then
yes.
fine.
What?
Sorry.
Yeah, no, speak.
Is that also, so then with that like thought process or like idea, whatever, to prematurely release these attachments, is that also a false ego? Like that motive, you know,
Prematurely wanting to give up the attachment.
Is that also like a...
Yeah, I mean, it has to be seen in connection, you know. But yeah, I mean, ultimately you can bring everything down to false ego, you know? Because it is the root cause of material existence, you know. But yeah, I mean, ultimately we can say it is also a way how the false ego comes up, because we we want to give up the attachment prematurely, you know, or that role, and we want to maybe be more advanced than we really are or something, you know. That's why again and again the solution is we have to work under senior guidance. We have to have a mentor. Just to have a guru is not enough guidance. We need somebody, you know, because our gurus have often thousands of disciples. They cannot possibly understand each and every person's individual situation in life. It's not possible if you have thousands of disciples. So we need a mentor. We need somebody in between who can really see how we practice and how we serve and how we cooperate with the devotees and how is our sadhana and so on. And who can, you know, who has the maturity and understanding to guide us. What is the right thing for us, you know? Definitely. Otherwise, easily we can create, you know, we can create even a whole mess out of our life, you know? So guidance we have to have.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I mean, if you have, where are you from? Your name is so unusual and exotic.
I'm from South Africa, but my name is Gaia, not Gaia. It's like a
Okay.
like a, yeah.
And your surname is
Duplessis.
Huh?
Duplessis.
Yeah. Duplessis. That sounds almost French or something, no?
Yeah, it is French.
Okay, good. Yes. I mean, if you have the chance, how old are you, if I may ask?
I'm 22.
22. If you have a chance, try and listen to this children's course, which I will give from 18th to 22nd, you know. And I mean, South Africa and Germany, I think, has the same time zone. Or even if you can't watch it live, you go and listen to the recordings, because there I have given this course many times in different parts of the world, and sometimes young ladies, they were saying, oh, before I took this course, I never wanted to have children, but now I actually look forward to it.
I very much like for me, I feel like the motivation for me, the attachment that I have so much is that I really, really, really want to be an extremely good mom, but like I also don't want to get like stuck in trying to achieve that.
Well, I mean, you know, as we said, as Vaishnavas, we should have that motivation to serve, you know, not wanting to be a great mom, you know, looking good and being recognized as great mom. But there's nothing wrong with doing that mother, that role of being a mother with heart and soul, trying our very best to give these special souls that take birth in a Vaishnava family, to give them the best beginning from the very start. It starts with Garbhadan Samskara, how to invite a special soul to take birth in our family, you know, it's a whole science, you know. So check out that course.
I will, thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Who else?
Gavra Bhavini Devidasi asks, to which extent we should perform our duties perfectly without getting too attached to the outcome? For example, it is natural for a wife to serve her husband and children, and it brings a lot of pleasure to see them happy.
Well, I mean, see, we should do every service with heart and soul to our best capacity, no matter whether it's mom and wife or pujari or sankirtan or whatever it may be. So whatever service we do, you know, we should do it with heart and soul. And then being attached to the outcome, well, I tell you, family life will teach us that we can't be attached to the outcome, you know. Krishna arranges that we may give our very best and the kids may still, you know, not be in Krishna consciousness and they may be a nonsense and all that. So, you know, Krishna, same like on Sankirtan and book distribution, we may have so many, you know, goals of distributing so many books, but then some days we don't distribute anything. So Krishna, you know, Krishna takes care of that, you know, that he gives us, you know, situations where things just don't work out the way we hope, you know. I mean, it happens all the time, my God, you know. Like I know one family here, one young family here in Germany, you know, that they conceived their first child and they try to do it all nicely and everything how it should be and this and that. And then now they have a highly handicapped child, you know, where half the brain is missing and the child cannot sit, stand, talk, nothing, doesn't even react, you know, to the parents, you know, doesn't even react. And my God, this was a whole blow for them, you know, because they tried to do everything really nicely and then, boo, something like that happens, you know. It was not easy for them to digest that whole situation, but now they really, you know, came to terms with it and they understand, yeah, even in such a situation, there is, you know, a special soul there and there must be some good reason why that soul ends up in such a body and in such a situation. And they have taken that child several times to India, to Vrindavan, because it will not live for very long, most likely. You know, usually these kind of children with that disease, they only live for a couple of years or something. So they're trying their best to give this child whatever they can, but it's very difficult because, you know, the mother told me, I mean, you don't even get a smile. You don't even get, you know, the pleasure that the child says mommy or Prabhupada or something, you know, can't speak anything, doesn't react, you know, so very difficult to have that mood of service when you don't get anything back emotionally, you know. Yes, very difficult, you know. So, I mean, Krishna has his ways to teach us, you know, and really family life, from what I have seen and in devotees' lives, there's so many, you know, unexpected situations, and, you know, and often devotees try their best, but still the children do all kinds of nonsense when they're teenagers or whatever, you know. So, I mean, life, school of life teaches that ultimately, you know. Yes. Anything else?
Yes, Mataji Satya Devidasi wanted to ask something, so I will unmute her.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. And,
Hare Krishna.
thank you very much. Please accept my humble obeisance.
Hare
I wanted to ask one more thing. I praise this practical thing really, because, for example, today morning I got really angry with my son. So I know anger comes from few more things that force ego, lust, and all these things. If so, how to, let's say, if I get back this situation, if it's not possible, but if it's possible, without false ego, how would I, act? Yeah, this is what I wanted to say. I got angry because of the feeling that my son doesn't treat me properly, you see. So this is really classical situation. So I get angry like that, but it makes it even worse, of course. And then I have to apologize later, and we have to work it out. I know exactly, theoretically, what should I do. I was studying these things. I have books, but now I can see it's very hard because I have still problem with my false ego. I am the mother he should respect, and how. So if you, for example, in this particular situation, without false ego, what would you recommend how to react next time, isn't it? I know how to react, but it's very hard sometimes. So
Yeah,
I would
I
like
mean,
to hear your opinion, please, your advice.
yeah, I mean, it depends a little bit, of course, on the situation.
Yeah.
So let's understand, you know, acting without false ego doesn't mean that we don't get angry, you know, because even Prabhupada got angry with devotees, but he was not controlled by anger. He simply used it as a tool to discipline and train, you know. So yes, as parents, you know, we may have to sometimes raise our voice and make our point and discipline the children, but we should not be controlled by the anger, you know. That's when it becomes the ego motivation, when we are controlled, you know. And I mean, I've heard this from other mothers also, how much the children often provoke their egos, you know. This is a very common thing, you know. And yeah, I mean, first step is always to hear about the whole topic, so we recognize, oh, it's my ego, you know. Yes, yes. And I mean, I think tomorrow already we will also discuss very practical steps, five steps, which can actually be applied in any kind of transformational internal work where we want to transform certain patterns of behavior, no matter whether it's envy or ego or something. Envy and ego, they always go together anyway. They're good friends, you know. So envy and ego always goes together. So whenever we want to transform some patterns of behaviors, these 5 steps, which we discuss tomorrow, they're very useful and very helpful and very practical. And I apply them myself, and I can really vouch that it works, you know, but it requires a lot of internal work. So we'll get to that tomorrow, you know. But yeah, that's why family life is just so purifying. Every day, you know, we experience some provocative situation in our life, practically every day. Krishna throws us some provocations for our ego. And usually we do the opposite of what we should be doing, you know. But yeah, once we hear about these things and we get a deeper understanding, then we can recognize these situations, you know, and then we can try and change our patterns of behaviors there, you know. It will become more clear in the next couple of sessions, you know. Irina, you have your hand up there, your little blue hand. What are you? Hare Krishna. She's here in Simachalam, by the way, in the next room. Okay, so what's your question?
I wanted to the beginning of the topic. You said that we have some designations, and then I thought that maybe we have these designations because the society, how to say in English?
Say it in German.
Respektiert uns oder
The society respects us.
also sie erwartet, and then we expect it from us, the society, and then we have these designations. And if these expectations would not be there, maybe we would not have this attachment to this designation. You understand what I mean?
Yes. I mean, you know.
So what would you say?
There's always certain expectations when we play our roles. Others have certain expectations. Very true. And we should, of course, fulfill these expectations, but in the motivation and in the motivating force of wanting to serve and please them, and not wanting to look good and be glorious, you know, that's the problem, you know, that we identify with the role we are playing and we try to gratify the ego's demands of looking really good, you know, instead of just saying, okay, let me just serve and do my very best, and no matter what I look like, it doesn't really matter. I just want to serve and please the devotees and Krishna and Prabhupada, you know. So that should be the motivating force. But yeah, I mean, we get to this also later, that, you know, especially now in Kali Yuga, you know, material life is all about ego, blowing up the ego, feeding and increasing the ego. You know, material life means the more you show off, the more successful you are, you know. And, you know, all the modern technology, Facebook, it's, you know, it's the tool for people to show off and promote themselves. You know, we will get to this, you know. So as Kali Yuga advances, this tendency is becoming stronger and stronger, especially here in the Western world. It's all about external achievements and being famous and having so many likes there on Facebook and so many thousands of people who know you and all this, you know. Whereas in spiritual life, it's the opposite. We want to understand our tiny, insignificant position of being humble servant. So the two cultures are completely like day and night. And naturally, we are influenced by the surrounding and this propaganda, you know, that we have to be all cool and fantastic and famous and so on, and known and so on, you know. So of course that influences us, and then we get more caught in this whole ego thing, you know.
Means that it's not so bad to have these designations, but it's more important to have the right motivation to act in the mood of service.
Yeah, I mean, we have to play our roles, you know. The solution is not to give up the roles, not to be mother, not to be wife, not to preach or not to sing or whatever. You know, we have to play our roles and do our services, but in a humble mood, you know, without running after this ego satisfaction. It will become more clear. I mean, today it's only the introductory session here, you know. Do we have any other questions?
We have 2 more questions, but they are off topic.
Off topic. So let me hear them, since there's still quite a few of you still here online. Don't know whether you're all listening still, but you're still there. So, all right, what are the questions?
Vivaswat Kumar asks,
Okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji, as a human, we listen everything, we follow it for like 1 week or 2 weeks, then we forget everything slowly. So my question is how we can follow this consistently?
Well, we have to hear again and again, you know, hear again and again. Or get the book where it's all written, and then we can read it again and again. Or take some notes, you know. Yeah, I mean, really, we have to hear again and again, you know. What can I say? Every time I give the seminar, I always learn something, you know, and it helps me to remind myself of being careful with the ego and so on. I mean, it will become clearer, you know. Tomorrow we will discuss the first tool of the Vaishnava etiquette, which really helps to subdue the ego. So if we hear these topics, you know, yeah, and of course we have to be motivated. We have to understand, I have to do something about this ego. Otherwise, how can I go back to Godhead? Subtle body of mind intelligence for its ego has to be transformed, has to be fully spiritualized. You know, otherwise the subtle body will take us to the next gross body. No doubt, no other way around it. You know, so if we want to get out of this world, we have to do this internal work. You know, yes. Yeah. We will get to it tomorrow. What else? Last question.
Question from Mohanasini Radha. Sorry if I pronouncing it wrong. Maybe you can ask yourself, or should I read?
Unmute her, let her talk.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Where are you from, Aditi?
Österreich.
Österreich. Ah ja, du hast mir geschrieben.
Yeah.
Okay, Hare
Hare Krishna. Actually, I got an instruction from Vienna Temple to get a course or training from you. So I would like to ask you if this seminar may be considered as a part of this training, or if you would even be willing to give me some training, please.
Training in what?
In devotee care, because also we have here in this part of Austria, I'm 3.5 hours away from Austria, and we have also here devotees, new devotees. They come to me and they want to have some advice. So I'm kind of longer in devotional service. So I have some Matajis which I try to guide and distract and give them some spiritual knowledge as well. So this way.
Yeah, I mean, this is really not connected now with this topic, but I mean, when I was in Vienna, we were having this course on sheltering relationships being the foundation to devotee care, you know. So that was that topic. And I think you also have the book, right? That blue book, Sheltering Relationships. Yeah, so I mean, there you know, I'm describing all these things in connection with devotee care. But of course, false ego, you know, as a mentor, if we want to serve as a mentor, if we are very strongly influenced by the ego, you know, then we cannot be a proper mentor, you know, because then the mentor becomes possessive over the mentees, and the mentor demands, all you have to do as I told you, and so on. So that will not be good mentorship, you know. So definitely false ego is part of the whole training also, you know. One has to be a little mature and off the false ego platform, you know, as much as possible, you know, to actually really be a mentor, you know, and also be detached and, you know, and not possessive and not wanting our way and all that, you know. So it's not so easy. But yeah, I mean, false ego is definitely a good training also to hear about that topic, you know. Did you get the false ego book on my visit also?
I have all your books.
Yeah, all right. So there you have it all in writing also. But it's also nice to, of course, attend the seminar too and hear the more discussion and so on, you know. Yes. All right. Well, thank you that you're joining, even though you have all the books.
I'm just reading the false ego book.
Okay,
Right now.
good.
Mm.
All right. Okay, so was that it for today? Yes?
No questions from chat anymore.
No questions from chat anymore. All right, so it's almost 7 o'clock here in Germany, and we have Saturday evenings. We have our yagya. We have a fire yagya every Saturday for a big Lord Nrsimhadev, and the whole community comes together, and we have nice kirtan and so on. It's like the main weekly program here. And even though it's locked down and everything, but we are counted on as living in one household, you know, so we can get together as being part of one household, and we don't even have to wear masks and all this because we eat from one kitchen and all that. So yeah, I'm very grateful that I can be here in Simachalam and have the nice association of all the devotees. Okay, so thank you all so much for joining us. I hope I will see you all again tomorrow, same time. So as I said, today was just the introductory session. And tomorrow we get more into all kinds of practical things there. So please be back again tomorrow. Okay, thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki.